There is one family in the history of rugby that defenders genuinely dreaded seeing on the team sheet. Not because of their try-scoring record, not because of their footwork, because when a Tuilagi hit you, and they all hit, you felt it for the rest of the week. 6 brothers, 1 village in Samoa, and a combined career's worth of tackles that left some of the toughest men in world rugby flat on their backs wondering what just happened. Some of those hits were textbook. Some of them were, let's say, in a grey area. The kind of collision that referees rewound twice before making a decision. But legal or not, opposition coaches spent the week before facing a Tuilagi, plotting exactly how to keep their players away from one. Manu once ran through 4 England defenders in training, his own teammates, before a coach told him to stop. Alesana hit a Northampton Saints centre so hard in a Premiership semi-final that the man reportedly didn't remember the second half. Freddie was playing at the top level of 2 different codes of rugby, while his brothers were still teenagers back in Fogapoa. This is the story of the most dangerous family rugby has ever seen. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why defenders went quiet when that name appeared on the opposite team sheet. The Tuilagi family comes from Fogapoa, a small village on Savaii, the larger of Samoa's 2 main islands. Their father, Tuilagi Vavai, was a politician who served as Deputy Speaker of Samoa's Legislative Assembly. That detail matters because it tells you something about the family's standing in Samoan society. This wasn't a family scraping by. They had roots, they had community respect, and they had expectations placed on them from the beginning. Samoa as a rugby nation is a fascinating story in its own right. A country of fewer than 200,000 people that has consistently produced world-class rugby players for decades, partly because of a culture that prizes physical toughness and communal identity, and partly because of the diaspora effect, where talented Samoan players have spread to professional leagues in England, France, Japan and elsewhere, and elevated the country's profile far beyond what its population size would suggest. The Tuilagi brothers didn't all leave Samoa at the same time. It happened gradually, driven by rugby opportunity. Freddie, the eldest, was the trailblazer. He went first, made it work, and the others followed. That pattern, one brother opening a door and the others walking through it, is how the whole dynasty was built, step by step, over more than 2 decades. The village of Fogapoa still exists and still produces rugby players. Alesana, after retiring from professional rugby in 2017, went back. He's raising his family there now. It's one of the things that gets overlooked when you tell the Tuilagi story. This isn't a family that turned its back on where it came from. Several of the brothers went home when their playing days were done. Freddie Tuilagi, everyone calls him Freddie, was born on the 9th of June 1971, which makes him the oldest of the brothers by several years. He's the reason any of the others ended up in professional rugby in Europe, because he was the one who showed it was possible. Freddie was selected for Samoa's 1991 Rugby World Cup squad. He was 20 years old. That tournament, the one where David Campese was winning tries for Australia and England, were marching to the final, was the first time a young Alesana back in Fogapoa watched his big brother on a World Cup stage and thought, I want to do that. The connection between Freddie's 1991 selection and Manu being named Manu Samoa after the Samoan national team in 1991 is one of those small family details that tells the whole story in one fact. Freddie went on to play in the 1995 World Cup too, and then did something unusual. He turned professional and switched to rugby league. He signed for Halifax Blue Sox and made 57 Super League appearances in 2 years, scoring 26 tries. Then he moved to St Helens, where he won the 1999 Super League Grand Final. He played from the interchange bench as St Helens beat Bradford Bulls. The following year, he was part of their 2000 Grand Final win over Wigan as well. 2 league titles in 2 years, then back to Union. He joined Leicester Tigers in 2000 and won 3 consecutive Premiership titles in 2000, 2001 and 2002, plus 2 European Champions Cup medals, as Leicester did the double in both 2001 and 2002. Think about that career arc. 1991 World Cup for Samoa, League Grand Finals with St Helens, European Cup medals with Leicester. He covered more ground across the sport than almost any player of his generation. After Leicester, he went to Cardiff Blues, then Castres in the French top 14. In 2015, his son Fred Tuilagi made an appearance for Leicester in a pre-season friendly, becoming the 8th Tuilagi to play senior rugby for the club. Freddie now runs rugby camps for children in the UK and the US, and works as an agent for Samoan players through his company Global Bro Sports. The trailblazer turned talent pipeline. It's the perfect ending to that chapter. Aneli Tuilagi, Henry, was born in August 1976 and is 5 years younger than Freddie. He followed his brother's path into European rugby, spending time in Italy with Parma before signing for Leicester Tigers, where he made 24 first-team appearances before a broken leg in his second season set him back. He went on to play for Perpignan in France's top 14, which turned out to be hugely significant, not just for Henry's career, but for the next generation of the family. Henry earned 10 caps for Samoa between 2002 and 2009. His international debut came against Fiji and Apia in June 2002, and he was joined in that match by both Freddie and Alesana, making it the first time 3 Tuilagi brothers played together in international rugby. 1 Samoan squad, 3 brothers from Fogapoa. Henry played for Samoa at a number 8, which meant he was a forward in international rugby at the same time his brothers were tearing up defences as backs. Anitalia Tuilagi, Andy, is arguably the most underrated of the brothers in terms of public profile, but his achievement of becoming the youngest player ever to represent Samoa tells you the kind of player he was. He made his debut against Tonga in July 2005, aged 19 years and 27 days, and scored a try on that debut too. Youngest ever starter, youngest ever scorer. He went on to earn 15 caps for Samoa across a decade of international rugby. Andy started at Leicester in 2005, then had loan spells at Leeds Carnegie before moving to Sale Sharks and later Newport Gwent Dragons in Wales. He and Alesana ended up as teammates at Newcastle Falcons from 2014, reuniting the brothers on the same wing at club level. By then Manu was already playing for England, which meant that in the 2014-15 season, 3 Tuilagi brothers were simultaneously playing in the Premiership. Andy and Alesana at Newcastle, Manu at Leicester. English rugby's top domestic competition had an entire Samoan family spread across it. If you ask most rugby people over 35 which Tuilagi brother was the most spectacular to watch at club level, a large number of them will say Alesana. He played for Leicester Tigers for 8 years between 2004 and 2012, made 162 appearances, scored 63 tries and won 3 Premiership titles and 2 Heineken Cup medals. Those are the numbers of an all-time great club player. His 2010-11 season was the peak. He finished as Leicester's top scorer with 17 tries in all competitions, 13 in the Premiership alone, which made him the league's top try scorer that year. He scored the match-winning try in the semi-final against Northampton. He scored a hat-trick against Gloucester at Welford Road, and he did it all at 6'1", 18 stone, combining power that made defenders bounce off him with pace that meant they couldn't catch him once he was in the open. The 2007 Premiership final against Gloucester is where a lot of people who saw it firsthand say they understood what Alesana was. He was man of the match, scored 2 tries, and helped Leicester to a 44-16 win at Twickenham. In the same season he started in the Anglo-Welsh Cup final too. At his best, there weren't many club wingers in Europe who could get close to him. For Samoa, he earned 37 caps and appeared at 4 Rugby World Cups, 2003, 2007, 2011 and 2015. His greatest international moment came in July 2011, when he scored the opening try in Samoa's 32-23 victory over Australia in Sydney. Australia at home in a test match. Samoa had beaten Australia once before in their history, and Alesana Tuilagi crossed first as they did it again. He also scored a hat-trick against Namibia at the 2011 World Cup. He retired from rugby in 2017 and went home to Fogapoa, which is where he is now. There's a quote from a Planet Rugby piece, where someone who trained with him describes the moment they pushed Alesana in training. He pushed back. They pushed again. He looked them in the eyes. They wrote, "I thought my life was over. It still haunts me to this day." That gives you the atmosphere around Alesana Tuilagi at his peak. Sanele Vavai Tuilagi is the 5th of the 6 brothers, and the one who tends to get the least coverage, partly because his Leicester career was brief, just 3 appearances between 2007 and 2009, and partly because he moved to France early and spent most of his career out of the English rugby conversation. He played in the top 14, and the second division with clubs including Narbonne and Carcassonne, and he earned caps for Samoa. Like the others, he was powerful and physical. But the French rugby scene is less visible to English-speaking rugby audiences, and so his career passed somewhat under the radar compared to Alesana and later Manu. The important thing about Vavae in the context of the family story is simply that he went to Leicester too. All 6 brothers played for Leicester Tigers at some point in their careers. That fact alone, 6 brothers from a village in Samoa, all ending up at the same English Premiership club, is the kind of thing you'd reject if someone put it in a script as too convenient. But that's what happened. Etuale Manu Samoa Tuilagi was born on the 18th of May, 1991, in Fogapoa, Samoa. His full name tells you everything about the context of his birth. His brother Freddie had just been selected for Samoa's 1991 World Cup squad, and his parents named him Manu Samoa after the team in celebration. The youngest Tuilagi brother arrived in the world at the moment the family's rugby story was just beginning. He moved to the UK to join his brothers as a teenager, first living in Cardiff in 2004, when Freddie was at Cardiff Blues, then moving to Leicester aged 15. He came through the Leicester Tigers Academy and made his senior debut for the club in September 2010. Richard Cockerell, Leicester's director of rugby at the time, said publicly that he expected Manu to become a first-team regular and to play for England before long. He was right on both counts, though even Cockerell probably didn't expect it to happen quite as fast as it did. Manu made his England debut on the 6th of August 2011 against Wales at Twickenham in a World Cup warm-up match. He scored a try in the 44th minute from an inside pass by Johnny Wilkinson. Wilkinson said at the time, "Manu has that aura about him, that Jason Robinson uniqueness about his ability to impact on a game. You'd think he's all about running over people, but he has got the footwork and the passing skills, and he can kick a ball pretty well. You must sit back and acknowledge that you are seeing the future of the game right here." That quote turned out to be both accurate and heartbreaking because of what injury would do to Manu's career over the next decade. He could have had nearly triple his eventual cap count. According to ESPN, out of a possible 158 test matches during his international career, Manu played 60. He missed the other 98 through injury. Hamstring problems, knee problems, ankle problems, neck problems, Achilles issues, a broken hand suffered against Samoa at the 2023 World Cup, and then broken again in the bronze final against Argentina. His career reads like a medical file with some extraordinary rugby performances inserted in between, and yet the rugby he played when fit was genuinely special. England beat New Zealand 38-21 in November 2012, their largest ever winning margin over the All Blacks, and Manu was involved in all 3 of England's tries. He was central to England reaching the 2019 World Cup final, his return from a long injury absence that year being one of the catalysts for England's campaign. He played in all the knockout games as England beat Australia and then dismantled New Zealand in the semi-final, 19-7. Former England coach Eddie Jones told ESPN he's been the best, most inspirational player for England. Stuart Lancaster, who coached him before Jones, was asked in 2014 what ingredient England needed to become world beaters. He smiled and said simply, "Manu." There's a detail from his time dealing with injuries that reveals something about who Manu is. In November 2017, during a particularly difficult run of setbacks, he visited a Samoan witch doctor. According to reports at the time, the witch doctor told him that 3 spirits had married Manu and were causing the injuries, and spent 2 hours a day for 4 days massaging him to block the spirits. Whether you find that funny, touching, or both probably depends on how you feel about traditional healing. But it shows a man who was willing to try anything to get back on the field, and who never entirely left his Samoan roots behind, even after a decade living in England. And yet the rugby he played when fit was genuinely special. England beat New Zealand 38-21 in November 2012, their largest ever winning margin over the All Blacks, and Manu was involved in all 3 of England's tries. He was central to England reaching the 2019 World Cup final, his return from a long injury absence that year being one of the catalysts for England's campaign. He played in all the knockout games as England beat Australia and then dismantled New Zealand in the semi-final, 19-7. Former England coach Eddie Jones told ESPN he's been the best, most inspirational player for England. Stuart Lancaster, who coached him before Jones, was asked in 2014 what ingredient England needed to become world beaters. He smiled and said simply, Manu. There's a detail from his time dealing with injuries that reveals something about who Manu is. In November 2017, during a particularly difficult run of setbacks, he visited a Samoan witch doctor. According to reports at the time, the witch doctor told him that 3 spirits had married Manu and were causing the injuries, and spent 2 hours a day for 4 days massaging him to block the spirits. Whether you find that funny, touching, or both probably depends on how you feel about traditional healing. But it shows a man who was willing to try anything to get back on the field, and who never entirely left his Samoan roots behind, even after a decade living in England. He left Leicester in July 2020, a difficult departure triggered by the club asking players to take pay cuts during the pandemic, and Manu refusing, and joined Sale Sharks, where he spent 4 years before signing for Bayonne in France's top 14 in 2024. At 34, playing injury-free week after week for the first time in years, he was named in the top 14 team of the season for 2024-25. He told Ruck magazine about life in Bayonne. Before I moved over there, it was voted the best place to watch rugby in the top 14. The people are very passionate, and rugby, it's a lifestyle for them. He finished with 20 tries and 60 appearances for England. He won't play for them again. The decision to represent England rather than Samoa was something Manu addressed publicly more than once over the years. He'd grown up in England from his mid-teens, played all his academy and early professional rugby there, and felt it was where his rugby identity had been formed. His brothers never criticised the choice publicly. The family seemed to understand it, but it meant that the youngest of the 6 brothers was the one who went in a different direction from all the others, and in doing so became the most famous Tuilagi of the lot. This is where the story gets remarkable all over again, because just when you might think the Tuilagi chapter in international rugby was drawing to a close, a 21-year-old lock called Posolo Tuilagi, Henry's son, Manu's nephew, turns up in the France Six Nations squad. Posolo was born on the 28th of July 2004 in Samoa, which means he was born into the family legacy rather than building it from scratch. His father Henry was still playing when Posolo was a baby. By the time Posolo was 3 years old, Henry had signed for Perpignan, and the family moved to the south of France. Posolo grew up there, went to school there, graduated from a French high school in 2023, and has played his professional rugby for Perpignan in the top 14. He is enormous. At 150 kilograms and 1.92 metres, he is built differently even by the standards of a family renowned for physical specimens. He made his France under-20 debut in March 2023 and was part of the French under-20 squad that won the World Rugby Under-20 Championship that summer, where he scored twice in a 35-14 win over New Zealand. His senior France debut came on the 2nd of February 2024 against Ireland in the Six Nations in Marseille. He was 19 years old, coming off the bench. 3 weeks later, Fabien Galtier gave him his first Six Nations start against Italy in Lille. He was named in the squad for the 2026 Six Nations and has continued to develop under Galtier's system at Perpignan. In an interview with AFP around the time of his first start, Posolo said, "It's a name I carry with pride and honour. I come from a family that has a great heritage in rugby. I just try to do it justice. My family is everything to me." And when asked about his father's involvement in his rugby education, "My father is really present. We debrief matches together. He gives me advice. He lived what I'm living now. Even if rugby has changed a bit since his time, the basics remain the same. He reminds me every day that to succeed, you have to work hard." The combined Tuilagi record across the brothers is something that takes a while to process. Freddie, Henry, Andy, Alesana and Vavai earned a combined 90-plus caps for Samoa across 3 decades of international rugby. Manu earned 60 for England. Solo's just starting his international career for France. That's 4 different countries: Samoa, England, France and Italy, if you count Alesana's time at Parma in the European Challenge Cup. Over 35 years of professional rugby, all from one family, out of one village on Savaii. The Leicester Tigers connection is genuinely unprecedented. All 6 brothers played for the club. Freddie's son Fred made an appearance for the Tigers in a 2015 pre-season friendly, becoming the 8th Tuilagi to pull on the Leicester jersey at senior level. The club has had a lot of great players across its history: Martin Johnson, Neil Back, Graham Rowntree, Jordan Murphy. But no family has embedded itself in the fabric of Welford Road the way the Tuilagis did. At one point in the 2010-11 season, Alesana and Manu were playing together for Leicester, while older brother Henry was on the opposition in a Heineken Cup game. Brothers on the same club side, brothers on the other side. The Premiership was essentially a family matter. The diaspora question is also worth thinking about. The Tuilagis are part of a much larger story about Samoan and Pacific Island rugby players who have spent decades providing talent to European professional leagues, while their home union has remained chronically under-resourced. World Rugby's eligibility rules have been debated for years in this context. Players who grew up in Samoa but qualified for England or France through residency, representing those nations instead of the country that produced them. Manu is the most prominent example in the Tuilagi family, though it was a choice he made consciously and has been open about. Posolo choosing France rather than Samoa is another data point in that ongoing conversation. Born in Samoa, moved to France at 3, grew up entirely in Perpignan. His cultural connection to France is deep and genuine, but he's still a Tuilagi from Fogapoa, carrying a Samoan name and still learning the game from his father who played for Samoa. The family manages to be simultaneously very Samoan and very international, and that tension, if you want to call it that, is part of what makes them such an interesting story. 6 brothers, 4 World Cups for Samoa, 1 World Cup final for England, a British and Irish Lions tour, 8 players at a single English club, and now a 21-year-old lock starting 6 Nations matches for France, doing post-match debriefs with his dad who played for Samoa, whose brother played 60 times for England. No other family has done what the Tuilagis have done in this sport, and nobody else has come close. And the story isn't finished. Posolo is just getting started, and there are more Tuilagis coming through behind him. So let us know in the comments. Which Tuilagi do you think was the most dangerous to play against? Is it Manu at his peak? Alesana in his prime years at Leicester? Or are you already making the case for Posolo to become the best of the lot? Drop it below. And if you want more deep dives like this one into the stories that shape the sport, make sure you're subscribed. We've got a lot more coming.